Hey,
Say hi.
look at this. Not even a virtual background. That's
I
just
know.
how we are upgrading in this world. Seems like it.
Yeah, I will say. So, what is this episode 12, by the way?
This is episode 12. Yeah.
Okay, episode 12. So, I just want to let you know that we like made part of our garage. So, I'm in the garage right now. And of course, like you and I love infrared stuff. Like we love like the infrared lights and like the infrared sauna. So Taylor was like, oh, like we need a heater for the garage because it gets pretty cold in here. It's not insulated. He got an infrared heater for the garage. And I turned it on this morning when I woke up, and like the whole garage is like warmer than the inside right now. Like the inside of the house. It's amazing. And I'm
That's a
like,
plus.
oh, yeah. I'm like, ooh, infrared sauna. Like, can I put this in a small room and then get really hot? Or like, what's the
Yeah.
deal? But yeah, we are decking out. I basically pulled the trigger on like a squat rack, all of the gym stuff, like flooring and an assault bike and stuff, like the
You pulled the
assault
trigger
bikes.
as in like you're not gonna do it or you are doing it. Like,
Oh,
what do you
sorry.
mean
I
pulled it?
pulled the trigger like we bought it. Like it's
Oh,
coming next
okay.
week.
Because the way
Yeah,
I
like
was
our
thinking about
gym.
it when you say pull the trigger, it's like, oh no, I think maybe that's pull the plug, but like I've pulled the trigger, so I'm not
Oh,
gonna do
yeah,
it.
yeah. So that's pull the plug. We don't want to do that.
No, that
So
sounds
yeah.
awesome.
So I'm just super excited because I just want to be able to work out here like whenever I want. Like I don't where we live now in Boise, Idaho, there is not a gym that's like super close, and the only one that is one of those like really janky like Anytime Fitness that's open 24/7, but it's kind of like a business office that got converted to a gym, like it's very like small and anyways, I don't know. I just rather be able to like have it, as like, well, for CrossFit, like you need to go and do that. But like for
Yeah.
me, like I could do if you give me like, I don't know, like I guess like a 6 foot space, like I can do my workouts anywhere.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
what did you say you're getting a salt bike? Sorry, what else was it?
An assault bike. So the one that has the arms as well, because I don't want to have to buy a rower separate. And you can always just do the arms, you can always just do the legs, or you can do both. So an assault bike, we're getting like a squat rack, right? So like the barbell and everything, all the different weights, I think up to like 200 pounds. And then what was like a box jumping thing as well, and then like some bands, because I want to start doing, not like I'm not going to like be doing CrossFit, but I want to be able to start doing pull-ups more and more and working on like my upper body. And so I need the bands to kind of like hold my weight a little bit to like help me. Cause
Yeah.
believe it or not, I used to be able to do like pull-ups, like no problem during like the volleyball days. And so now it's kind of like, yeah, I can't do that.
It's
So yeah.
I'm so happy for you because yeah, I mean, whether you like to call it CrossFit or not, I suppose, if you do it at home, it's still a form of CrossFit. You're doing like multiple different exercises and things like that. And I always like to say to like people, especially women who tend to refrain from doing like upper body exercising, it's
Yeah.
like you should be able to do a pull-up, like essentially, like that should be somebody's goal. I think it's a good long-term goal. If you can do a pull-up, especially as a woman, where like upper body strength is sort of it's been, I don't know, like sort of shoved off to the side in favor
Yeah.
of like just doing squats for your booty all day long. But your upper body strength is like really important as well. Like you got to be able to do a
Wait,
pull-up,
that's literally okay, Josh. Like truer words have never been said, because it's honestly like I think I was telling someone like the weights I use, and I don't use anything crazy, but like I do a lot of different like shoulder presses and stuff like that. And like sometimes I'll use 20 on each arm, or like 15 pounds. This is pounds. And like that is like probably the max I want to go. But like I have friends that are like, oh, I wouldn't go like above 5. Like you're gonna get really big arms. And I'm like, no, like that's not really how it works. Like peak volleyball time, like because I played D1 volleyball, right, for about a year in college. We would have weight training sessions, and then we would have cardio sessions, and then we'd have actually practice. So at one point we were doing like in our off season in summer when we train before the fall season starts, we would have 2 days where they're like, you know, 2 2-hour practices in New York, like wicked heat, like the worst heat you can imagine. And there's no AC and like these old school gyms. And then you would basically have like a weight training session as well during the day. So your weight training session, like we would always record what we did, right? So you'd record our mile time. We would record, you know, our squat amounts that we could do squatting and stuff. And I will tell you, like my thighs were like, because volleyball, like you're playing at a certain level, like my thighs were like, they're the biggest they've ever been, but they were so strong. Do you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
was just like leaned out, like all muscle, but like I still like you wouldn't be able to be like, oh, like that Nicole, like her thighs are huge. Like she's like pretty burly, right? I just look like a normal person from day to day. And then I like would put on, you know, the volleyball booty shorts, as we call them, because they're so small. And then you'd be like, oh, wow, okay, like they all have pretty gnarly thighs. And it's like, well, no shit, we're jumping, we're like squatting 24/7. Like, but I
Exactly.
do like the part where they made us do weightlifting. Like, I think it's so important because a lot of people forget that weightlifting can help with sprinting, especially. We've always had to do sprinting in volleyball and like for tryouts, especially. Well, you probably can relate to like, well, maybe not, but trying out for sports, you always had to hit certain things, you know? Sorry, Josh. And I remember like one time, I guess I started incorporating weightlifting more with a coach, and my sprinting got so much better, like so much better. And I remember I was like sick and I had strep throat, and then I had to go like recover and then do like the tryouts for like varsity, you know, volleyball in high school. And I remember like I was like, oh, this is like easier than I thought, because like my legs just had more muscle and they just had like the power to like push me further. So I think if people are training for running, you need to also do like the weightlifting and like the recovery and like everything to like just build up the knee, because I think people can run, but you need to like do the other stuff too, so you're not like stick thin, just like, you know, like just doing the running, like kind of like mix some things in there and strengthen those legs as well.
uh, like 100%. And I mean, you touched on so many things there, but like so many women look at like these CrossFit athletes, these like women that literally spend their entire lives training for the CrossFit games, whatever, and they think they're gonna get bulky if they start lifting a few weights. Like, no, you're not.
No.
First of all, those, they literally eat, sleep. That is their entire life, and they train twice a day for 6 days a week. They lift
Yeah.
insane amounts of weight, and the amounts of calories they consume is just above the normal threshold for anybody. Like it's literally the,
Yeah.
to the point
It's
where you,
hard to look like that. Like
yeah,
it's hard to build that muscle and look like that. Me doing 15 pounds for like, you know, or doing like a
yeah,
50-pound clean and press, like, no, that's not going to do it. Like, sorry,
no,
but like, don't worry about your muscle building overnight to be like super burly. It's not going to
yeah,
happen. But it is true though, because like I hear it, well, you hear it your whole life, and you're like, especially as being like a girl, and you're like, I don't know about that. But I was skeptical at one point too, but I'm like, you know what? I was doing volleyball and I never really got like, and I was peak performance and peak lifting and peak everything. And I never really like got big. I just like, if you told me to flex my arm, yeah, it's probably, it's probably going to be a little bit more, strong than you would have thought.
toned.
Toned. Yeah. Yeah. Toned.
But
Yeah.
the interesting thing is like, your legs are by far the biggest muscles in your body.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not like a nutritionist or expert or like sports scientist, but I
You're
know
not.
no, but I know for a fact that if you want to get stronger, if you want to lose weight quickly, like, yes, cardio is good, but resistance training and squatting and things like that will just will take your like your fat loss to another level, because those muscles, those huge entire like leg muscles they are containers. They're basically a big container for calories. Like, they are going to force your body to like get all the energy it needs. So if you want to, like, I find resistance training, if I go without it, I feel so weak, and I feel like just like you said, like just a bit like sticky, you know, like
Yeah.
I can't move at the best pace that I want to move at. So it's so important that you do those like foundational exercises like squatting, bench pressing,
Yeah. Oh
pull-ups.
yeah.
If you can focus on like just those three and deadlifts, those four, like every week, you are sorted.
So I do have a story for you, Josh, because I think for like all the ladies listening, because I think when I initially lost the 25 pounds doing carnivore, I wanted to talk about my workout routine because I think people are like, oh, she probably just worked out really hard or restricted calories, which I
Mm.
did neither. Like there was, zero cognition of how many calories I was eating or any like, any conscientious thought about, hey, how many calories am I eating? So I was doing the carnivore diet, right? I started that in April 2020. And at the same time, I started a program where I could work out at home. And I basically was doing 3 to 4 weightlifting exercise a week. And I was doing one cardio session. And when I mean one cardio session, like it wasn't like me doing spin because at the time my knee was still like recovering. So I wasn't like doing, like a heavy spin, high intensity workout, it was more like, oh, I would do like 30 minutes like cycling on the bike, just like
Mm.
very even keel, whatever. So I was able to lose 25 pounds by eating carnivore, doing weightlifting 3 to 4 times a week. And again, this is peak COVID, right? So I didn't have access to a gym. I had like a couple different weights. I used mostly body weight, to be honest. I had like a 20-pound dumbbell, the one that's like, you can do like so much with. So if you're ever like wondering like what to buy like a set of 2-pound weights that you can use like here for squats. You can squat like this, or you can push up, but I would get a set of 10-pound weights for females. I would get a 20 to 25-pound kettlebell. And then I would also probably get some bands, like resistant bands for your legs. So that's like all I used because that's the only thing I could get access to. Like I
Yeah.
had my spin bike at home, but like I didn't really use it that much because like I just didn't like how I felt just doing cardio. And also like, no offense, but like when I'm on a bike too long, like not no offense, but when you're on a bike too long, like and
Mm.
you're sitting and you're not standing and sitting, like it's not great for like you know what I mean? Like down there, like there has been times I one time did like a 2-hour spin class, like, and I swear to God, like I was numb down there. Like I was
Yeah.
like,
Especially if you don't wear like
um,
cycling pants and they have those like skinny seats and oh no,
yes,
it's
yes. Oh
terrible.
my God. So I will
Terrible.
say the Peloton seat is way comfier. Like they have some cushion in their seat, but
Mm.
like I wouldn't spend $2,000. Like I usually get like a $600, $700 bike at most. Like the assault bike is $700.
Mm.
Um, but like you can use that forever and you can be a guy or a girl and use it. It's how much effort you put into it.
Yeah.
And like also like I don't know, I just think it's better for like
That
doing that before you get warm, right?
that thing is the nastiest thing I've ever like the
Are
assault
you like
bike
having PTSD?
so much. Like I've had some rough workouts with that thing because I mean, for those that don't know, the assault bike is literally this bicycle slash like arm movement, like what do you call those things? Elliptical type thing. But basically what you're doing is you're moving your arms while you're moving your legs. And the reason why this is so difficult is your extremities, it literally restricts the blood flow to both your extremities. So you're using all of your extremities to get this movement going. And it is so nasty. Like it can
Yeah.
take you from, it can just humble you. Let me put it that way. It's just like one humbling
Oh
experience,
yeah.
that
But
thing.
one thing to say, so, and I'll get to like the assault bike part probably even more, but like, yeah, like you don't even need a bike. Like, honestly, like walking
Mm.
outside is free, but that's basically what I was doing. Like, so 3 to 4 times a week, weightlifting, one cardio session of like 30 minutes, maybe like very aerobic, not like high intensity. And I was able to lose 25 pounds. So
Yeah.
people say abs are made
Yeah.
in the kitchen, right? Which is like so true because it's like your diet and what you're doing. But like that's not a lot of exercise, right, Josh? Like that's pretty like low key. And the thing is, I'd wake up every morning and do it. We had a 600 square foot apartment. Okay. Like, this is where I was doing my work. Like, that's really small. Like,
Mm.
so I'm just saying, like, people can do it. Like, you can do
Yeah.
it. Like, you know, you only need like a yoga mat or something. Like, and I'm telling you, if you get like 2 10-pound weights, like 1 20-pound dumbbell, and like some bands, like you're chilling. Oh, and ankle weights. I did a lot of stuff for like PT for my knees, but
And can you imagine, like, there's so many meat-based carnivore keto enthusiasts out there that are on the diet, but they're not exercising,
yeah,
and they like to sort of complain that something's, listen, it is just one of those things that moving your body in some form or another is just so essential to health. So if you eat the diet,
yeah,
cool. It's the diet is like 80% of the work, but the other 20% is like what you're saying, just body weight exercise, simple stuff, 10 minutes a day. You don't have to overdo
yeah.
it. And then
Just do a
like
bunch of
mindfulness and
squats.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
do a bunch of squats. That, like,
Go for a
literally,
walk. Yeah.
that's all you have to do. But don't assume that diet alone is going to like make you feel optimal, because I think movement is like, it's like this feedback loop. It's like the better you
Yeah.
move, the better you eat, and then they just feed each other. And
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? It just, you just
Oh,
get into
Josh,
this. Yeah.
you are like preaching, and it's so true. And again, like, you and I are here, we're here to like give you tools to reach peak health. You know, like, we're giving you tools to do it. Yes, you can eat really like clean, you know, single ingredient foods, right? And you can like, you know, feel great from that. That's only part of it, right? Like, if you're smoking cigarettes, if you're, like we talked about in the last episode, all the toxins and stuff, if you're constantly
Mm,
exposed to toxins, you're smoking cigarettes all the time, or, you know, like you're eating a whole, you know, dozen of, you know, donuts every Sunday or something. That's a weird example, but anyway, what I'm saying is that we're here to give you the tools. So
yeah.
like, just the diet is like one tool that you can use, but there's all these different tools that you have available to you that are going to help you live a long life, a healthy life. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about libido. We're going back to sex. We're going
Um,
back to sex. You're like,
right.
I'm here for it. So we were talking about, like, you know, things that, you know, can rev you up, right? I had oysters yesterday,
Oh,
and I was
okay.
like thinking to
Speaking of.
myself, I was like, yeah, I was like, ooh, oysters, you know. And I will say, I had one of the biggest ones I've ever had. That sounds really gross. Let me just take that back a second. I had one of the largest oysters that I've ever seen. Like, I think it was this big, you guys. It was a thick boy, okay? And I look at Taylor and I'm like, yeah, this is my last oyster. Like, I'm gonna make sure, take my fork, make sure it moves, you know, so it can come out of the thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but like, whoo, that was like, it was the biggest bite like I've ever had. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a huge bite. Like, I would never
Yeah.
put that much. Anyways, then I swallowed it and I was like, I think I'm good on oysters for a little bit. But the thing is that I had oysters after we'd already, you know, done the deed that day. So it's kind of like, am I gonna like redo it? But anyways, oysters are an aphrodisiac, like 100%. But also, like, I think eating clean is an
Mm,
aphrodisiac, because when you do eat pizza, when you do eat, you know, more dairy than usual, more sugar than usual, right? Like, it creates, well, one, it creates gas, like
yeah.
100%. And like, it creates the bloating. And like, you're also so tired. Like, you don't want to like, you don't want to go hump, you know?
No,
Like, you're like, I
absolutely.
don't want to go hump. But my friend was telling me exercise for her is what revs her up. She noticed the correlation, and she kept a diary of what she was eating just to see. And she said that it was the working out that did it for her, that put her in the mood. And it's
Hmm.
like, hell yeah, right? That's like revving up the testosterone. That's, you know, getting your body going. It's like knowing that your body can do these awesome things. And then
Mm.
like, you're like ready for more.
And it's
So
like,
the
it's a
working
signal.
out, yeah.
Yeah, it's a signal to your, like, it's a signal to your sort of your being, that like when you feel that way, that's a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
you're doing something right, you know. Like I'll be sitting in the sauna, like the sauna for me is one. I'll be sitting in the sauna and I'll be ready to go from the sauna. I don't know what it is about saunas.
Wait,
Just the
really?
heat.
That's so interesting. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I told you about how it's like I would do them with Taylor. And like literally
You
it's
said
like
the
the last
opposite.
thing. Well, yes, the last thing. I'm like, did you just look at my boob? Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, cause you're both sitting there naked and it's kind of like,
Yeah.
but I'll actually have to ask him because I never actually asked him if he's like revved up after the sauna, but there is something about that. Like, so there was this cancer person. Wow, that sounds interesting. There was
Cancer
this
person.
cancer practitioner I was listening to. She runs a cancer institute. I think I sent you this podcast episode. I don't know if you listened to it, but basically this girl has an integrative approach to dealing with cancer. So that means that she believes that yes, there are treatments like what is it? Oh my God. What is the thing where they zap it? Oh, sorry,
Chemotherapy.
chemotherapy,
Yeah.
radiation therapy, etc. She believes in those things, but she knows that there's preventative things that you can do, the environmental toxins piece, right? And all the different things that you can stop doing or get exposure to help reduce your risk of cancer. So it was like pretty fascinating and like blowing my mind. And one of the things that she found was in all of her patients that she had that came in for like treatment at the place, the cancer treatment center, all of them, or I think she said 98%, had low vitamin D levels. And she was talking a lot about vitamin D, which we have a huge deficiency right now, especially in the US and all over the world. But one of the things is what she said is that vitamin D is actually responsible for, it influences basically over 3,000 genes in your body. And it's actually responsible for the functionality of most organs in your body. And I was like,
That's incredible.
holy moly. I was like, I just did not know that, like the level of that. I was like, you get vitamin D, like, from the sun and like whatever, right? Like it turns your cholesterol into like, vitamin D and it helps your body. But I didn't know like the level. So she was saying that was a trend with a lot of people that had cancer. And then also the other thing was most people that did get cancer, they had some type of trauma that happened to them.
Yeah. I can believe that.
And I thought that, yeah, I did not know. Did you know about that? Like, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, Dr. Gabor Mata's work on trauma, he 100% believes that it's a manifestation of your
Is he
trauma.
South
So
African?
no, he's the
Oh,
guy
or is
that
he?
he's Canadian. I think he's Canadian, but
Okay.
he wrote the book When the Body Says No, and
When the body
also
says no.
in the
Okay.
realm of Hungry Ghosts, Close Encounters with Addiction. But he's like one of my, like, just one of those people that I follow like dearly, and he's just got so much wisdom. He's like this old, like shamanic type doctor that used to work in the ER, but he showed how like especially an example is like ladies with breast cancer. There was a strong correlation between breast cancer and an early childhood, or sorry, a strong correlation between breast cancer and the ability to not say no. So you get these women that work really hard and they can't say no, and they work insane hours. And there's such a strong correlation between that and breast cancer. And like, listen, environmental toxins plays a huge part to this, but your trauma does too. So he
Yeah.
also showed that people that were anorexic were more likely to have been molested or had been sexually abused as kids. So if you were anorexic and you had like a sort of bulimic eating disorder, there was a
Yeah.
strong correlation between that and being sexually abused when you were a kid. And I can confirm that with people that I
Yeah.
know. So that's the
Yeah.
crazy thing, is it just shows you the level of influence that a trauma has on your
Yeah.
body. Yeah. It's
It's
crazy.
all, so the thing is, it's all tied together, right? So like everything is tied together. So whether people think that working out's not going to help them or not, like it's going to help you. But the interesting part that you bring up is the breast cancer, because that is the one where, here's the thing. I thought that if you don't have the BRCA gene, that you have a very, 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 very low, almost impossible chance of getting it, because they base a lot what they tell the, not the public, but what is kind of like the story that's been told is that, hey, like if you don't have the BRCA gene, like let's say your mom had breast cancer, and let's say my mom had breast cancer and I don't have the BRCA gene, so then like I'm at ease and I don't have to worry. But what they found about breast cancer was it actually is less than 5% part of the gene. Less than 5% is actually based on if someone has the gene or not, like the BRCA gene for getting exposed to cancer. That's what she was saying, which I did not know. I'm like, less than 5%. I was like, that's a freaking toss up. Like it literally doesn't even matter if you have the gene or not. And that's different than the story I've been told. And then the second thing she said, which blew my mind, which I don't know why I didn't think about this. The reason why mothers and daughters usually both, they have a higher chance of getting breast cancer, both of them. So if the mother has breast cancer, the daughter has the higher chance of getting breast cancer. And she said this actually wasn't because of genes. This was actually because whatever the mom was exposed to, whether that's an environmental toxin or whatever was going on in the house, like maybe a mold toxicity or something like that, most likely, or foods they were eating, most likely the daughter had the same exposure. So that's why you get these two. It's the environment that they're in. And my mind was just like I was like, oh my God, why did I not even think about this? So it actually was what they were exposed to because they lived in the same household. And I was like, that makes so much more sense. Like that, why, like, you know, so anyways, so just for people out there, genes are, yes, a part of you. And you can look more into this on your own about genes and how much they influence, but they're not everything, right? Like they're not everything. So just know that you still, like, if you have the BRCA gene, that doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to get breast cancer, right? It's up to you. Are you exposing yourself to toxins every day? Are you eating healthy? You know, and she, of course, as the cancer lady was talking about the processed food, you know, the glyphosate that's on all of our plants and of course in all of the processed food. So she did, like, it was nice seeing a health practitioner, someone that's in the cancer world, that's like a big person, talk about that, because I just thought that everyone just ignored it. But like she's like, she's dialed, man.
What's her name? What's her name? Do you know? Do you remember?
Let me look really quick, because I like
we need to really start like sharing screen on here. We can make it more interactive. Next time
I
we'll
know.
start sharing
I think
screens
you blocked me from sharing screen though. Remember? I was like,
really?
Yeah, remember I was trying to do it.
Well,
Okay,
I
so
need
her
to
name is
fix that.
Dr. Keneally.
Dr.
And
Keneally,
I
okay.
listened to her on an episode that came out in February 2022. Sorry, 2022. So
How do
her
you
name is
spell her
Dr.
name?
Yeah, it's Leigh Aaron. So Leigh Aaron Connolly, Connealy. And she's an MD, and she's also the medical director at a cancer center for healing and Center for New Medicine. So she also wrote a book, which is called The Cancer Revolution, which I actually want to read because I only got a snippet, right? So I'm like, oh my God, like all this stuff. But yeah, and then she also talked about going in the sun, right? Like we're all like, you know, like avoiding it. But it was, I don't know, it was just so interesting and kind of scary because it's like everywhere. Like I just went on a podcast with my friend Maria, and she talks more about relationships, but I told her about like the cancer stuff, and like her mother had it, like breast cancer, so she wanted to like learn more, and I sent her this podcast, and then like literally in her feed and stuff, it was like different clothes brands which have like toxic chemicals that are in their clothes because they're so cheaply made. The PFAs are the wrappers of food, like, you know, food wrappers and stuff, and how those like leach into the food when it's like to go food or fast food or whatever. And then like the plastics. So she's now like getting inundated with like all this stuff. And she's like, she sends it to me and I'm like, dude, like it's maddening, right?
It is. It is. And like we so complex as like human beings. Like you can focus on not getting breast cancer, but it's not to say that something else is not going to like, you know, spring up. But the
Totally.
point is that just doing the best you can with what you have, not being what's the word I'm looking for? Not being a hypochondriac or somebody who's like hyper vigilant, like these people that are like super nervous of EMFs to the point where they can't walk around the city because they're looking at all the electrical shit and it's just making them have anxiety.
It affects, you can't let it
You
affect your way of life, right?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. The fact is that do your best, realize that yes, there are like tons of toxins that are coming at you. But listen, if you were living in the wild, chances are you're gonna have tons of shit wanting to eat you as well. So it's like it's just that, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? There's no different. It's no different.
trade-off.
There's a trade-off, but don't let it. Try not to let it like influence you to the point where you become so like obsessed about every detail of your environment that you can't live your life to the best you can. Just do the best you
Yeah.
can with what you have. And obviously if you like I think we spoke about this before, but like the things that you do every single day, like that should be your starting point. Like, what do you brush your teeth with? What do you cook your food in? What do you spray
Yeah.
yourself with? Where do you spend most of your time? Like those sort of things. Like I think the rest doesn't matter, but the things that you're putting on your body and inside your body every day, those should be like interrogated probably with a bit more uh like a bit
Oh,
more
yeah.
serious thought, than
It's kind of like you have to, like, the things that you have within your control, like working out, eating single ingredient foods, getting some sunshine now and then, right? Like,
mhm,
not inundating yourself with fragrances, right? Or like, different, I guess, stuff that you're putting on your face or your skin that have like, cancer causing ingredients, right? Those are things that are within your control, right? Because I always like, if you can change those things that are in your control, cool. Because you can't control everything else. Like we had someone that knocked on our door the other day and they're like, hey, like we're spraying for pesticides at your neighbors' houses on both sides. Do you want us to also spray your house? And it's like for bugs and everything. And
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good, dog. But like the
Thank
thing
you.
is that sucks is that you're like, well, that's one thing that I don't have control over, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously the pesticides that are going to be sprayed against like my fence and stuff at my neighbors, like I probably don't want to be outside that day with the dogs, hanging
Mm,
out when they're like spraying stuff. So like there's stuff like that that's out of your control. And I didn't really even give it a second thought. I was just like, okay, well, this is an example of something where I don't have control over it. So I'm just kind
exactly.
of like, at least I have control over like A through Z in my house,
Yeah. And you could have
and like what I'm doing.
you could have easily been that person that would be like, what the fuck? Like you spraying
Yeah.
pesticides, like
Give them like a flyer on pesticides or something. Like,
again, like back to the complex beings. You might be worried about the pesticides giving you like some sort of cancer, but your rage and your reaction to that is probably going to cause some sort of other thing inside your body anyway. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, where do you
yes.
choose to put your energy? It's like, is it worth getting angry over? Because chances of you like angry all the time. That's like heading for like some sort of heart disease there because you're holding all your
Yeah.
anger inside. That's like that sort of thing that people would have got to be like just vigilant of. It's like how
Oh,
you are reacting to the outside world.
it's kind of crazy. Like, remember that girl that was so mad about the guy dropping weights at the gym? That example I gave you, where like she
Mm,
was like, "Do you hear that guy dropping weights?" And I was like, "Yeah, bro, looks like he's lifting a lot. Good for him." And she's like, oh. But there's people like that, and I think that's so true. But back to like the trauma and walking around with anger, um, I do think like therapy helps so much. Like I think therapy gets a bad rep, but like I've had a therapist like most of my life,
mm,
and I actually like really enjoyed it because it's just someone like impartial that you can talk to, that's not biased, that's genuinely just like there to listen, and you kind of just talk things out, and you're like, a lot of therapy is just talking things out and like saying things yourself, and you're like, oh snap, like,
yeah.
okay, I just realized what my problem is. So if you do feel like you are angry all the time, and like, I don't know, like you just feel kind of like, there sometimes is traumas that happened to you earlier in life, like what we talked about, grief is not linear, right? Like dealing with a trauma is not linear, right? They come out in different phases of your life. And maybe, you being angry all the time, right, is like you dealing with a trauma that hasn't really been dealt with, you know? So I think that if someone can go and get therapy, meditate, and like just look inward, I know we say this a lot, look inward could be meditating, look inward could be, journaling to really find out the root cause. Looking inward could be, talking to friends and family and be like, hey, like, do you, like I tend to do this a lot, like, can you like tell me like just honestly, like, like what your thoughts are on this? It could be talking to friends and family. It could be going to therapists. There's so many different things for looking inward. But I think, I don't think it's healthy to walk around angry and be holding on to things, or maybe not even know why you're angry. So like, like there's no shame in seeking help. Like I told you, I had a therapist like most of my life, and it's been awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually got I've got a term for this. I call it post-traumatic self-compassion. So, you have
Oh, I like
PTSD.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, essentially going to therapy is in and of itself, it's a form of self-therapy. You just at least speaking to somebody about it. And chances are most of your realizations are going to come through yourself. It's not going to be the therapist telling you what to do. It's going to be you speaking to her asking him asking the right questions, and you are going to be the one that comes up with it. But more often
Yeah.
than not, it's like back to Dr. Gabor Mata, he calls it compassionate self-inquiry. And essentially what it is being self-compassionate with the fact that if you were hurt or traumatized or whatever, the answer is not to sort of feed that with distraction or whatever. It's just to be like completely kind to yourself and understand yourself a bit better. So yeah, I like to call it post-traumatic self-compassion. It's like turn the worst
Oh,
thing
yeah.
in your life that happened to you into the thing that's informed you the most and made you the most self-compassionate person. Because if you can do that, you are so ready for any challenge really there
Well,
is.
you're going
Like
to
if
be better off, right? Like you're going
100
to be prepared.
100%.
Oh,
If you look at somebody
that's
like
great.
Oprah, like
Mhm.
she's gone through the worst like sexual abuse like that somebody could go through, and
I
she
didn't even know
turned.
that actually.
Yeah, I
Wait,
mean that's what
what?
happened to her. She was raped as a child. Yeah.
Oh God.
So she turned the worst thing that ever happened, the worst thing that could ever
Mhm.
happen to somebody, like that's on top of the list nearly. And she used that as energy to move forward. It's like you can either take the thing that's hurt you and like suffocated you like all your life, whatever. You can take that
Yeah.
and you can try and use it as a distraction or use it as an excuse to get things you want, or like, you get people that are like almost my point is you can get some people that like go through cancer treatments, they beat cancer, and they almost become like egotistical about it. It's like almost like they've beaten
Mm.
something. And I don't know if you ever noticed, I've noticed a few examples of this. Maybe it's not present in your life, but there's certain people that have gone through cancer therapy, beaten it, come through the other side, and they're kind of more egotistical than they were before. But then you get some people,
Interesting.
yeah, it's like almost like, I've beaten this thing. It's like this thing that I had to beat. It's not some, instead of asking yourself the question, why, maybe did this happen to me? Or,
Yeah.
what's the disease trying to show me? It's like, yes, these like modern diseases of the guts and stuff can be cured by carnivore and meat based. And I'm a full advocate of that. But I'm also 100% down with asking, okay, let's go to the roots. Like, what actually got you there? And how can we
Yeah.
heal it from the most holistic way, not just using
Yeah.
one force to heal it. So, yeah,
That's
I find that very
so,
interesting.
yeah, it's so interesting. And I think what you're talking about is like, yeah, like changing your diet isn't going to just fix you. Like, we're not here being like, oh, yeah, carnivore is a cure all. No. But what I'm saying is it is a catalyst to then having like, it does help mentally, like immensely. You're not,
100%. Yeah.
the anxiety goes away, the depression goes away, the up and down goes away, the mood swings go away. Right. Like that's what goes away. So if those things are gone, right, because of your diet and maybe your exercise and you're getting vitamin D now, then you can kind of be like, okay, I think I'm ready to attack this past trauma. Or you know what? I think I'm ready to like dive deeper, look inward, figure out what the fuck is going on, you know? So it's almost like a catalyst. It's like a starting point to like look inward. I think it's honestly just a starting point to look inward. And that's how it was for me. Because if I wasn't stable and I wasn't like mentally okay, I feel like I would have never been like, oh, I'm going to meditate now. Or, you know what, like, you know, do you remember when I was pretty vocal about like changing my behavior, especially in a marriage? Do you remember when I was
Yes.
like reading that book about like an alpha
Yeah.
female, like
I
in
was actually
marriage and
thinking
how to
about that
not,
today, strangely enough.
yeah.
I
Oh,
remember
wait,
that.
that's so weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very synchronous.
Yeah. Wait, that's so weird. We're like on the same page. Must be the meat, must be the
Yeah,
ribeyes.
must
No.
be. Must be.
But there is something to say about that is that I feel like if you're not open to change, if you're not open to making yourself better, then maybe you should look at what you're doing with your day and like those different components or those different tools, and you should utilize them, right? Because like I think the joy of life is living each day, becoming better and being better than you were yesterday, right? Like, is that weird to say? Like, I think that's one of the joys of life is like continually, like, I don't know, continually improving, you know,
Mm,
over
mm,
time, like a
mm.
fine 400 day old aged steak.
E- Exactly. And I will add, like, I was pondering this. It's so weird that you're speaking about this.
It is weird.
Sometimes improving for somebody can mean a couple of things. It can mean accepting, letting go, and allowing whatever's. So what I'm saying is, don't, for some people, don't mistake, because I was this person, don't mistake improvement as you having to get somewhere or build up something or read more books or do
Mm-hmm.
more meditations or, eat more perfectly. Sometimes growth or improve or like improvements can actually mean it's like accepting the thing that happened to you or accepting something in your day
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not saying has to be big, but that is like a form of improvement. It's just a lot of people don't see that. And there's a paradox there, because when you let go and you allow and you accept the sort of, I don't know, feelings of shame or guilt or anger or despair or whatever, like the normal human emotions that everyone experiences, if you can accept those, there's a huge paradox. They tend to allow you to grow more without you even having to distract yourself with, so-called, I don't know, improvements. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But but
Yeah.
but but everyone goes through a stage. So like people go through stages. Like I went through huge, like typical self-improvement stages, and they've helped tremendously. But also I've been through stages where like the accepting has been just as beneficial as those like very like linear stages of growth, basically, for me, I
Yeah.
found, you know
And
what I'm
that's,
saying?
Josh, that's a really good call out because I don't want people to be like, oh, I read 30 pages instead of 20 pages yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's, yeah,
Yeah.
like, let's just clarify, like, it shouldn't be
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, it could be accepting. I think for myself, it's the non-reactivity because like that was something where I was super reactionary, you know, and like that comes from the area of control. I wanted to
Mm,
control everything, you know, like I've been called a control freak because I like things a certain way. And I think I get that probably from my father's side. But like, it's just like the letting go part, you know,
mm,
like the realizing that, hey, like if let's just hope this doesn't happen yet, but let's just say if Taylor overcooks a steak, I'm still going to be so thankful that I even have a husband who's cooking me food, that I have steak to eat, you know, and that I can still like eat something, you know, and that's why there's butter anyway. Right. So, you know,
100%. Yeah.
yeah. So like, there's just a different thing. So the non-reactivity has been huge because especially, and I tell you this about work too. Like I have a high stress job and it's numbers based. And the non-reactivity helps me so that when something does happen Like I had like 2 deals fall through on Friday, like literally back to back. And I was like, cool. But the thing is, instead of like stressing out that like they didn't fall through, you can just like kind of pick up and like not spend that time stressing over 2 deals falling through, and then like persevere to the third, you know? So it's kind of interesting, I guess, in that regard, that like the time you waste freaking out, or the time you waste angry about something, or the time you waste, you know, like slumping, or what's the word, like when you are sad, or like you're like, just like
ruminating, I don't know.
Yeah, ruminating. Yeah. The
like
time
thinking.
you waste ruminating, you could have had another deal, or you could have done XYZ to set you up for success in the next deal. So I kind of think about that, and I like tell people, like, my advice is probably so bad, but I tell people to care less. It's not saying that you should not have an ideal, you know, conversation with your customer and care about your customer and care about all that. But I just tell people, like, let things roll off of you. You know, like the more you let things roll off of you, the more you're impermeable. What word am I thinking? Impermeable.
Impermeable, impenetrable. I don't know.
Impermeable. Why can't I say impermeable? I can't say impermeable. So the more you let things roll off of you, right? Whether it's work, you know, just other stuff that happens that maybe annoys you, you become like this impenetrable fortress of like solitude. Do you know what I mean? And like this energy just kind of like, you know, comes from you, and you're just like, you're like a powerhouse, and it's really weird. So my advice to people in a work situation is care less. And it sounds so weird saying that, but like for the people that like get it and they're like, oh, okay, like their numbers go up, you know, like it's just, it's crazy. But yeah, that's my advice for people in the workplace. Care less, let things just roll off of you. You know, it's like that Chumbawamba song, right? I get knocked down, but I get up again. Like, you know, like
there it is. There it is.
So yeah. But anyway.
I wanted to touch on, so I'm shifting gears big time, but
yeah, let's do it.
I back that, but I follow this fitness influencer, and he shall remain nameless. You won't know him, but he's like sort of in my circle of like friends, let me say.
Oh, okay.
But I was going through his, I don't follow him, but I just sometimes go into his Instagram, see what's happening.
Interesting. It's like a trigger.
Yeah, somebody asked him, like, what do you, so he's a very shredded dude, fitness influencer, done very well, like super shredded. And somebody asked him,
sorry, what does super shredded mean?
Sorry, shredded, like shredded, like
oh,
as
shredded,
in,
like in shape.
Shredded.
Okay, I was like, what does shredded mean?
My ex,
no,
super shredded, as in he's got like perfect abs, you know, the physique, everything. But somebody asked him, what do you think of the carnivore diet? And he said, no, it's not really optimal for human consumption, or not really optimal for humans. And I thought about this for a second, and I've thought about it before. It's like, firstly, if somebody asked me that, I would firstly want to know more information. Like I would ask a better question. I'd firstly say to them, okay, are you talking about for physique wise, so for looks, or for healing? Because those are two very different things, you know. He is a physique competitor. That's a completely different ball game, and that doesn't mean
I already have something in my mind right now of like calorie counting and deficits and all that stuff, but go on.
Yeah, so that means that he is going to be like, it doesn't mean that you're healthy, that you that shredded and that lean. It doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy. First of all, I'll say that. But asking a better question, and this guy doesn't, what bugs me is like, I have lost nearly 100 pounds of fat. So I've got skin in the game with somebody that maybe wants to lose a lot of weight. I can't tell you how to get as shredded as he can and to get that muscular physique, because I have never done that. So my point is that skin in the game plays a huge aspect in your answer to people. So if you just throw out your answer to your audience of 20,000 people, if you just say to them, hey, no, I don't think it's optimal for humans, you are sending a message. It's the same as like, the Paul Saladinos and stuff of the world that just assume that everyone can eat fruits and whatnot. No, like,
Yeah.
context is everything. You need to ask. I would ask the person, first of all, like, hey, are you talking about for physique now or for healing? Because if it's healing, then yes, it is probably optimal because it's going to get
Yeah,
you to the place where your gut can actually heal. So anyway,
totally.
that was a trigger
That
for
is
me, and I thought I'd bring
triggering.
it
That
up.
is triggering, even for me right now, like listening, because there's two things to that. One is that, so the first thing people have to remember is when you're bodybuilding, it's not a healthy cycle getting to that level, right? Getting to that shredded level is not a healthy way of doing that. There's usually a lot of calorie counting. There's usually a lot of protein powder, which definitely
Yeah.
has soy and other things in it. And there's, really pushing yourself, limiting water intake. There's all these different things for bodybuilding. And ultimately, unless you're going to do bodybuilding, it's not adaptable and it's not healthy for 99% of people. Right. Like it's not. So let's just start there, that this guy is doing something that's, it's going to catch up with him later in his life,
Yeah.
like it will. Whether he has thyroid issues or
I think it
autoimmune
already is,
issues,
to be
whatever.
honest.
There you
It's
go.
slowly
Right. So
getting there.
yeah. So it's interesting to me because I like to comment on things, and I can tell you, like, I was vegan, remember, for 3 months, and it was the worst time of my life. I've done low carb, I've done calorie deficit, I've had 6-pack abs. And that was, like we said, I was 90 minutes on the stair stepper doing all these different exercises. And I still thought I was fat, remember? And I had a 6-pack. So the thing is that unless he has experience doing carnivore, I think he should shut the fuck up. That's honestly like my thing. Like, I have done all the diets, all of the fad diets I've done. I've done keto, I've done vegan, I've done low carb, I've done, I tried doing like pescatarian, like, I've done like the whole foods situation. Right. So like, I don't know, I can probably comment on that. I've done the deficits with calorie counting and everything. And that was honestly freaking hard, man. So I just think that if people can make a blanket statement on something they haven't experienced themselves, there is the problem.
Yeah.
There is a problem. What experience do you have doing carnivore? Absolutely zero. You're just gonna make a blanket statement when you have no experience in it, and you're doing something that actually is widely known to be unhealthy and will cost you your health at the end of the day with that bodybuilding.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
the reason why I also brought it up is because somebody else messaged me
like
recently,
about
and
it.
no,
Oh,
no, no, no. They just messaged me. They
okay.
wanted to know how to start a keto carnivore diet. So the first thing I did, like, I thought about this. Like, my first inclination was to rush and give my answer and tell them exactly what I would do. If I had to start again, what would I do? I would do this, this, this. Instead, I said, okay, number one, what are you doing? Are you trying to heal or are you trying to look good? To me, those are two separate things.
Yeah,
So
totally.
there's starting point number one. So he sort of answered and he said, well, I've got these issues with, so it's healing. Okay, cool. Straight away healing. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So you want to heal. Second thing, I said, what I would do, go brush up on good resources of people that are much better at this than I am. Like, Kevin Stock, Judy Cho, Michaela Peterson, Sean Baker, whatever. Go
Yeah.
read as much as you can first and just brush your own knowledge up first, because I'm not an expert. And then finally, like, after those two things, third, I gave him a list of things that I would do now, like with the knowledge that I have now, what I would do to start. And but my brain went through those filters first. So I'm no longer that person on Instagram. And I was, I mean, everyone is, but I'm no longer that
Yeah.
person that just assumes that everything's going to be right for everyone and that I'm just going to throw this blanket
Yeah.
statement out there, like, it just doesn't work, So I think it's
It's
a
so
super important
true.
topic. Can probably get way more into it into another episode, but I thought it was really interesting, like, how that probably gets thrown out. The fact that he's doing it, can you imagine how many other like fitness influencers are doing it? Because there's probably a lot
Oh
that
yeah.
haven't
And
even tried it.
remember too, like I always say, follow the money, depending how big like
Mm.
an influencer is too. Like there's certain brands that are backing you. as
Yeah.
well, like certain protein powders, certain I don't know, like any type of products, like protein bars, like you name it. Like you'd be surprised, but a lot of these people, they have pretty big contracts with these companies that are
Organ
like pushing these.
supplements.
Yeah, organ supplements, right? So I would just say, like, you know, follow the money, but also like the thing that's the funniest thing, Josh, that it's not optimal for humans. This is carnivore and like the ancestral diet. This is how humans have been eating for
Mm,
the majority of the time that we've been on the planet.
100%.
Okay. So like
100%.
that's like the funniest part. Just if you just take
Yeah.
apart even his own experience or anything, it's like, dude, like this is what has worked for so long. You
I
know,
actually read
like
this
it's
quote. I actually read this quote on this. Let me try to get it up here. It is, yeah, I think I shared it on my Instagram, but when you develop your opinions on the basis of weak evidence, you will have difficulty interpreting subsequent information that contradicts these opinions, even if this new information is obviously more accurate. 100%, because
is this
they
Nietzsche
so
or who
no, this
is
is
this?
Nassim Taleb. This is Nassim Taleb
Oh, okay.
from Skin and the
Nietzsche would be a
from
lot darker.
yeah, it would be more intense than that. But there's an undisputed like agreement that for millions of years, humans were carnivorous meat eaters. That I'm not denying the fact that like when meat was like scarce and we couldn't get it, like fruits and vegetables obviously played a role to keep us alive, but it doesn't mean that they're optimal, you know? So there's an undisputed fact that we were eating meat for 2 million years, and now all of a sudden, like what
Yeah.
we've reached a level of complexity that our organism can't handle meat. Like, no, come on. It just
Yeah.
doesn't work
No,
like that.
no. And also those fruits and vegetables back then were completely different than the genetically
Yeah,
modified foods they are today.
yeah, yeah.
So it's like it's so hard to like compare apples to apples in a way
Mm,
because it's like, well, you know. But yeah, I just it's so nerve-wracking, Josh, like thinking about like I don't know. We talked about this before, but like thinking about the blame on meat for something that like it doesn't make any sense. Like the least meat consumption we've had, you know, the most processed foods we've ever had, you know, the most cases
mm.
of diabetes, the most cases of obesity, the most cases of vitamin D deficiencies, and we're trying to blame meat
Yeah.
for all of that. Like
Well,
like it's just shocking.
did you see that? Did you see what I
Oh my
posted on
God.
my Instagram with Joe Rogan,
No, what was
with
it?
him explaining Bill Gates's? Oh my word! I really want to try to play this for you. Sorry, it's so good.
Please do.
Um, it's just so good. But he explains Bill. This is Rob Wolf and Diana Rogers on Joe
Oh, yes,
Rogan.
yes. Yeah.
So you've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't play it for you now, but basically he talks about how Bill Gates is obviously pushing for this meatless whatever society that we want to live in, but he has this dude exactly with fucking man boobs, a belly, little stick arms, and
Yeah.
like no, like you cannot be telling me
No.
that
Yeah.
meat is bad if you look like that. Like I'm sorry, you just can't do that. That's not how it
Yeah.
works. That's
It's
just
not
not how it works.
compelling. Like it's honestly not
No.
compelling. Like you are literally the case showing us the failure of living on a plant-based diet.
Mm.
It's so true. It's like, dude, like, and that's why I say to everyone here, meet your heroes in person. Like just regardless of like everything else,
Was
but
the pun
like
intended? Was the pun intended there?
uh maybe
Meet your
not
heroes
really.
in person.
No, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, meet your meat. No, but meet your heroes in person just because like I don't know. I think it's a lot different meeting people in real life and like not like seeing what they look like and being like, oh, like this person looks so unhealthy. Like, oh, this person must have had filters all over their face or like, you know, Photoshop going on. Oh my God, I'm next to them and their skin is just awful. Like, I don't even understand.
Mm.
So I always say to people, meet your heroes in person. A person that is healthy, like just like emulates health. You know what I mean? Like you can see it in their skin, you can see it in their nails, for example. I'm like showing my nails off.
Damn.
They're so long right now.
I won't show mine. Mine are disgusting from CrossFit.
No, you're fine. I will just say that like there's different things that you can look on a people. And of course, like I have the thickest hair I've ever had in my life. I have the best nails I've ever had, the best skin I've ever had in my life. And people are like, dude, you're dying. Like you're gonna die.
Yeah,
You know, and I'm like,
what the
totally.
fuck? Yeah.
Yeah, you're totally gonna die. And it's like, okay, like cool. And I had someone, because we eventually want to have kids, and I always bring this up. But I had a friend of mine ask, and they're like, are you gonna stay carnivore once you become pregnant? And I was like, interesting question, but absolutely.
Yeah.
Like
Probably
how
gonna get even
like
more
I get
carnivore than ever.
totally, you're gonna be like more strict because you're like, dude, I
Mm.
don't want fucking plastics in there. I don't want, like you have to be even more stringent what you put in your body just because like anyway, but I was just laughing because I was like, that's your concern that like, I'm eating. So here's the thing. It's fine for people to be vegan and be pregnant. Their babies usually come out underweight, which is like, I know people who are vegan that have babies and like they have underweight babies. But like here I am having a diet that is too nutrient dense and people are concerned that me eating a too nutrient dense diet is going to be real crazy for being pregnant. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how, like, I'm just like it's just so like demonized, I guess. Like,
It's
and
just the
just
sign
like
of it's just a sign of the level of like
sign of the times, I guess.
mass brainwashing going on, really, I suppose.
Yeah. But I imagine when that does happen, people will give me so much shit. I'm just like, it's going to be like a whole new level of like,
the
for
best
sure.
the best for me, there's something so like beautiful in the like silent revenge. So 10 years from now, when you've had your kid and this kid's growing up and it's fucking 6'7"
Thor.
and it's this fucking beast, or it's just a nice kid, dude, I think it doesn't have to be a kid. What I'm saying, it can be your own body. It can be like, for instance, I'm seeing the benefits now, like that 2 years ago when I started carnivore properly, I'm only really seeing the benefits in my training now. Like the strength
Yeah.
that I'm putting out now is the best I'm the strongest I've ever been. Like it is so rewarding, but it's taken so long. And I kind of like that because I
Yeah.
didn't take the easy route of just shoving my face full of carbs all the time, because I know that's a short-term strategy. Like give your body time, and give your whatever, your goals or whatever time, give them room to breathe, because like what you can achieve in 10 years is like pretty remarkable. And then people are going to look back and be like, I guarantee those people are not going to be saying shit when your baby rocks out and it's healthy.
Elon 2.0. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
And if it's
No,
healthy, it's
yeah.
healthy. That's all you want. You just want a baby that pops out, that's healthy and breathing. And if you have that, that's
Yeah.
a victory. Like
It's all that matters.
in the olden days, if you had a baby that was breathing and healthy, that's like a victory. Like, and you were still alive as a mother as well. Like, that's good.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
double whammy. Like you won. But
exactly.
that's like the funny thing. And you hit on something too, is that like people want easy. People want the diet that's going to get them to drop weight. Sean Baker actually talked about this on Michaela Peterson's podcast. Actually, I had like an archive moment, like listening. But he was talking about how he did do the low fat, like lean protein diet, like lots of salads, lots of greens before turning to keto and then carnivore.
Yeah.
And he did lose a substantial amount of weight, but he
Yeah.
felt like shit, and like there's other people where they're like, oh yeah, like I just want to, like, everyone wants everything now. Like we live in a world where people are very entitled and they're like kind of like, oh, like I'm lazy, like I want to take this pill and like lose this weight, or I want to, like I want to do this and I can lose this much weight in 3 months. So it's just like, just know that, let your goals breathe, I think is so important, because even going a year into carnivore, right? You were saying just now, like you're 2 years in and you're feeling like the ultimate Wow, I'm really bad at talking this morning,
That's
but
a
you're
that's
just
a
like the
new word.
ultimate
I like
version.
that.
Yeah.
The ultimate.
Your ultimate, ultimate version of yourself right now, which is awesome.
Mm,
And it takes
mm,
time. So people just need to like kind of like take a moment and just be like, hey, like this might not happen, 3 months from now, it might not happen a year from now, but it might happen 2 years from now. And I have to accept that and just know that this road is a long-term road.
mm.
Like you and I, like no matter what people say, they're like, oh, are you going to stay carnivore, whether, trying to get pregnant or not, or, when you do get pregnant or something. Right. I think that people want to ask us like, so you think you'll ever go back to like eating normal? And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, it's
No,
just like, no, like I'm so excited. What's going to happen 6 years from now? Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
that
what's
that's
going
a
to happen?
that's
Are
a
we going to be glowing? Are we going to be glowing?
yeah, that's a really good point because I've been told that a lot. Like, are
Me
you gonna
too.
ever go back to eating normal? It's like, what the fuck? Like,
So
okay,
processed food and seed
yeah,
oils.
yeah, like what is normal? Okay, maybe okay, my diet has evolved over the past 2 years. So I like eat a little bit of avo now and again, a bit of berries, but really still 90% of my calories comes from meats. It's like that's not a
Yeah.
huge variation. It's like that's nothing. So
Yeah. Ooh,
I don't know what
crazy, crazy weekend for Josh,
I don't know what normal is. Speaking of though,
Yeah.
before we end, like I had for the first time last night, so I went to a friend's house and we had sous vide, like Sean Baker does those sous vide
Yeah.
steaks.
Oh, I saw. Yeah. Yeah. I saw your
I've
story.
never I've never had that before. So
Did
actually
they
it
sear it
was
at the end or did they sous vide it and then sear it at the end? Or what
sous
was
vide
the,
for an hour and then seared it. But I'm pretty I'm pretty like certain I want to get like a proper sous vide thing because it's just
yeah.
it's just damn like easy and it's nutritious and
Yeah.
yeah, it looks cool. So I'll
No,
keep you up
yeah.
to
No,
date.
you definitely should. I liked finding like different ways and everything too. I did want to bring up one more thing before we end. So there have been a lot of headlines now that are like coming out basically saying that the fitness community, the, meat eating community is like alt-right or something. Have you seen these articles on like Vice and like The Guardian and stuff, and like how eating meat and like working out is going to make you like a super far right person or something? And it's literally like you read this and you're just like, wait, this is not real. Like you're like
Yeah.
laughing, and then you read it further and you're like, oh my god, they're like they're like it's not a parody
No.
basically. So
No.
I was like reading all this and it's just like, oh my god, like not only are you demonizing meat, you want to demonize the people that eat meat. You want to demonize someone for taking care of their health, healing. You want to demonize someone for working out and not being a fat, lazy fuck. Like, are you
Yeah.
serious? Like, what the fuck? Like, I
Yeah, I
don't want to
love
be
it.
300 pounds, so I work out. Like,
Yeah.
what? I don't want to have mental health issues, so I eat like, single ingredient food. So I just think that is just wild that we live in a world which is now demonizing people for self-care
Mm.
and taking hold of their fitness, their health, the food that they put in their body, and like actually thinking about it before doing it. But do you have any
Yeah.
thoughts on that? Because I thought that was pretty wild.
I would say this podcast is the answer to that because that's the reason why we do what we do is because to explain that, that's definitely not the case. Obviously, there
Yeah.
are people that, again, train for or do things or eat meat so they could be these influencers on Instagram. And it's so cringy. I can't get over it. But we are, in my opinion, this podcast is the antithesis to that. It's about the real world application of it every single day. It's not about the memes. It's not about looking cool. It's not about posing with your steak all the time or no, it's about fucking healing your body so you can become a better person to your spouse or your work colleagues or whatever. So yeah, I I think you know me well by now. I tend to stay away from like the news and things like that. So I did see like a few stories that
Yeah. Yeah.
that from
Same,
like Sean
same.
Beck, but that's about as much as I heard. But to me, the answer is everything that we do is the answer to that. It's to
Yeah.
show that there's so much more to it than just eating meat or just exercising. There's so much more
Yeah. And
to
you
the
can
whole.
still be on this page too and be like someone that's vegetarian or something. Like, I don't fucking know. Like we're, you know, it's not all just about the meat, you know, there's just so many other aspects. But I guess I took offense because I'm like, yo, like it's just such a weird, crazy idea. And like, hopefully most people don't actually believe a headline like that or an article like that. But you have to admit, like, there are some people that are like, oh, like, that's so true. Or like, oh my God, that makes so much more sense. Like, I have to be careful being around people that eat meat. It was literally like warning people, like, don't hang out with people that work out or like eat meat. And it's like,
we do
what?
both in excessive quantities, so there we go.
We're trouble. We are trouble, I guess. So much trouble.
So funny.
But yeah, so Taylor, actually, one other thing just to mention. So Taylor sent me he just sent me something from a New York Post, and now I'm like cracking up because literally it like blocked me on my internet from doing it. But basically, like the headline
You want
is
to try
like
share your
Bill
screen?
Gates.
Oh no, you're
No,
not sharing
literally,
screen.
I can't even open the thing right now.
Okay.
It's so funny.
Okay.
Like I have different like features like locked on my computer. Side note for people, like I actually have like the oldest MacBook Air because like I barely use.
That thing's running on fumes. It's ready to give in
You've
any
been on
moment
it.
now.
You've been on it. Yeah, but Taylor sent me this, and anyways, like I'll look at it later. But like literally, the headlines is Bill Gates is turning 43. $1 million mansion is turning into a bachelor pad or something. So he probably like heard us talking about Bill Gates.
Okay.
But yeah, like it's just pretty crazy. But one other thing, what was I gonna mention to you? Oh, I went to a festival yesterday. So I thought I'd like mention that because like Josh and I, like we don't completely like, I don't know, we don't like shutter ourselves away from like the world. Like we still are social beings. And I think being social is so important for your health. But we went to, it was like a beer festival, which was inside of like another big music festival. And so
wow, festivalception, a festival in a festival.
Festival exception. But the funniest part was that like we literally, so we like did like a I guess a pregame where like you meet at your friend's house before you all get together and go. And I had like a whiskey ginger drink, and it was like a sugar-free like ginger ale with like some whiskey in it. And I was like, oh, this is really good. I had one. And then we left, and I started feeling like not great from that kind of. I was just like, oh, like this is kind of like throwing me off. And like usually like I'm pretty like okay to handle like certain amounts of alcohol.
Yeah.
So then Taylor, like we get there, and Taylor was like, I'm starving. Let's go hit the food trucks. Cause that's like the main reason Taylor wanted to go. And so all the lines for the food trucks were so long. So like we go around the corner, and like one of my favorite places called Oye Tavern is like right around the corner. And we just like sat there, and like there's no wait, and it was like happy hour prices. And I was like, this is amazing, you know? And then we tried to go back in to meet up with our friends, and the line for like where they were at in like this thing called like the beer festival garden or whatever, where they were, it was like the longest line ever. And we were like, oh shoot. I'm not waiting in there to not drink beer. Like I was like, I want to see my friends and I want to hang out, but like
I'm not waiting there to not drink beer.
yeah. So I was like, crap. But anyways, we try to like meet up later. But the thing is that like you can still do stuff. Like I'm very social. Like, and now like we're golfing during the week, you know, after work, we're playing pickleball regularly. Freaking love pickleball. For anyone that doesn't know, like if someone asks you to play pickleball, go do it. It's like 50% laughing and 50% burning calories. So, but there's just social things you can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and back to movement like that I love that. Like it doesn't have to be fucking CrossFit. Like if your form of movement is doing that every day, I don't even know how to say it, pickleball and
pickleball, like a pickle
pickleball. Yeah. Okay. Pickleball. Yeah. And if it's playing tennis or playing golf, whatever, cool. That's more than sufficient to get you moving. So that's cool. I'm glad that we ended on where we started.
Yeah, kind of like a life update. I'm like, this is what happened. But anyway, but everyone, like, please, you know, if you can, I'm just going to say this because we need to start saying this, but please like and subscribe if you can. Leave us a comment if there's anything you want us to talk about, but give us a like, subscribe to us. And there's definitely going to be more podcasts to come. But yeah, this was a good one.
New studio looks dope. I'm keen for what's to come from it.
Very keen.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Bye, everyone.
Cool.